work on your personal report, considering that none of the funding shows up on your personal report. It all reports to the tax ID number. But in many cases, we have to fix that first. So unintended side thing that comes out of working with us is having really good credit.
Yep.
So
and just think about it. We're seeing thousands of credit reports every year. We're submitting 1,500 on average applications every month. We really know how this works. So you guys are in really good hands. But the positioning is important. We talked about that.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good, getting gooder.
Good. Great. Outstanding.
Let me hit a light here and keep the screen straight. Straight, as we say in Mississippi. I'm sure you played with somebody from Mississippi in your lifetime.
Yep.
And we still say that, straight. When I go home, I have to laugh at my parents. Got a fun, busy day?
Yeah, I've had a fun, busy week. I've had a really great week. Yeah, what about you?
It's good. It's good. You know, we really working hard to get butts in the seats here, and that's you know, I'll share with you. We've done a little bit. I don't know, Greg may have, but we're protecting on the front end the integrity of the event. So what we've gone and done is gone to organizations that serve small business owners, allowing them to offer complimentary tickets, aka as a sponsor or partner.
Okay.
So the urban leagues, the good, you know, SBDCs and those type of people. So the right people will be in the room, but it won't be, they got the tickets free from that standpoint. Because we want a full room. That's our goal.
What's the capacity?
Capacity is 10,000. So, but we set the ceiling at a little lower level. Our goal is to get 1,000 plus registered, and hopefully we can have 500 to 700 hanging out throughout the day at different times. Yeah, have you used Hopin?
I've never used it, no.
All right, so you'll be getting a notice. Hopefully Greg will have it set up by tomorrow for Tuesday night. We're gonna have all the speakers walking through with our moderators. So we'll have moderators assigned to each conference room to make the experience easier, but it's a cool platform in that it allows you to do the one-to-one networking, allows you to have a trade show booth and all those fun stuff.
Okay, cool.
So, a lot different than a Zoom room.
Good, I look forward to seeing it in action then.
Yeah, it's, for some people it's being intimidating, but once you get in there, you're like, okay, I like this, because you know, if you're not digging the main stage speaker, you can go by and hit booths and see who's hanging out at their booth and have a 10-minute conversation with a vendor that you may have a, you know, something in common with.
Right, cool.
And then we're going to set up a coffee shop, virtual coffee shop. So if you're not feeling something, just go sit over there and talk with other people.
Cool.
So, but thanks again for doing this. You know, if you would record it when we go live, I'll get a copy of it and I'll restream it on my platform too, but I'll share it from here. And the goal is really just to talk about, introduce each other to our audiences. I'll say this, I was doing a live and I said, I don't know if he Googled, I said, hey, 2 tickets for someone who could tell me who one of our speakers is that pivot in the paint at UT and with the comments. And as an ESPN person, and I mean, literally less than a few minutes. Is it Fran Harris? So
That's fine.
you've been used as trivia, and they got you right. And so that's really it. And, conversations I have is around that infographics I shot you. I'm doing it with every speaker, just from a pivoting standpoint: pause, pray, pivot, plan, and pursue and persist.
Okay, great.
All right.
Good.
It's on your time.
You ready? All right, let's do it.
And we'll shoot for no more than 30 minutes, which would be good.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay.
So I'm used to doing the other part, so I'm not used to this part.
I saw you were doing one earlier. How'd that one go? I just happened to catch
That was a
it.
restream.
Okay, gotcha.
So I literally, but it went well. That was with Lethea Owens.
Yep.
Have you connected with her before?
I have not. All right, we're getting the signs that we're about to go. Preparing. And you're going to start, right? Even though I'm hosting your
You can introduce me to your community.
Okay.
I'm just going to pick it up here so I can do some sharing while we talk.
All right.
Did you get to see Shark Tank with the young man on it?
I did. He didn't get his deal, but I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah, I didn't think he would because it's so personality driven.
Yeah.
And he's like that in person, so he's
All right. I'm just filling in some stuff real quick for folks.
Okay.
All right, about to go live. Ready? Let's go. Are you seeing on your end what's happening?
Hey, yep. So we're live. Hey, it's show's live here.
Let's do it. Hey everybody, it's Fran Harris. On Thursdays can be a lot of different things in my world. It can be Tech Thursdays, it can be Throwback Thursdays, it can be Tenacious Thursday. Today we're talking about pivoting. We're talking about what to do, not just in a pandemic, but what to do when life throws you something that you were not expecting. How does it affect and impact your business? How does it impact your life? My guest today, and my guest for him today is Howard White, who is one of the founders of a new conference called the Pivot Conference. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what you can be doing to truly win during this uncertain time, and how you can join us for the Pivot Conference and truly take your business and your life to the next level. So Howard, take it away.
Hey, so Fran, we're gonna keep it with the T's, okay? I mean, keep it with the T's. It's gonna be a turnaround Thursday. Hey, we throw it back sometimes, but today we're just gonna turn it around and make sure it's going in the right way, because, as you know, that's what pivoting is. You're really just turning and finding that release point, the proper release point, and that's a lot of what you're doing in life. When you pivot, you find that right direction or hear that right voice. And so, first of all, thanks a lot for being part of the Pivot Conference. I'm excited that Greg Russell connected us, or connected you with us. And, we're looking to create a community here. When we talk about the Pivot Conference, we're looking to create a community because, as I tell people this, I do know this. If you're listening to Fran and I today, tomorrow, whenever you decide to listen, you have survived every pandemic that you have faced. That's guaranteed, okay?
Yeah.
Because you're here.
Yep.
No matter how rough it was or you felt going through it, you actually grew through it. And this too shall be the same if you choose to take that mindset. Fran, as I think about this phrase, I'm a person of faith, so I'm a Christian. And I like to say that because I have a lot of Muslim friends. And so, faith is the same. And I tell people principles are few, processes are many. And when you boil most religion down, it has core principles.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I challenge people to do is pause. So when this hit you, because you had a lot going on, some things that probably came to a halt, a screeching halt. You told me about some big projects you have that the brakes got put on. How do you face those situations when you hit an uncertain time or hit a pandemic or hit a problem? How do you pause and really assess the situation?
I really appreciate that the first P was pause, because maybe about a decade ago, I decided that as a woman of faith as well, that I was going to be grateful to God for what was and what was not. See, sometimes we want to be grateful for all the multitude of blessings that we have, the things that come that we ask for, things that we said, this is what I want, and then they happen. But we don't want to claim the stuff that was kind of like, wait a minute, where did that come from? So I made a decision over a decade ago to say, be grateful for the blessings that are and the ones that are not, because a lot of the things that you don't want in your life, you don't need in your life, sometimes you're asking for, and sometimes the great blessing in things is not getting some of that stuff. So the pause was a big part of what I experienced when the COVID-19 pandemic became official. I just said, okay, so I got to be grateful. I said I was going to be grateful for what is and what is not. And what is not right now is that things are going to be, they're not going to go on my timetable.
Yeah.
They're not going to be in my structured, ordered, everything works in Fran's life, and I had to be grateful. So I was in tremendous gratitude for the fact that I got the opportunity to pause, to just sit there and go, okay, all right. So the fact that I just got to sit here with rotating the same clothes because I was out of town, rotating the same clothes for a week and a half, I'm going to enjoy this pause and I'm going to make the most of it. So
you learn to accessorize a little different to come with that same outfit.
Exactly. So I'm going to get quiet. I'm going to get quiet in my life, and I'm going to get quiet in my business and see, how I can truly maximize this time.
My favorite joke on that, one day I was Les Brown, who we all know and love and adore. I said, Mr. Brown, why do you always wear a blue suit and red tie? He said, well, I saw Ronald Reagan in it, and I just love the way it looked, that power. And then he said, plus when I travel, people don't know if I change clothes or not.
Exactly.
I can carry less suits and get away with it.
Yep. I think it was Albert Einstein that wore, at some point in his life, started wearing the same thing. I think it was black and white. So I have my standard black shirt on. You don't know what day it is. That's not your business. Don't worry about it. This could be yesterday's outfit. I'm just going to wear the black and white and we'll be cool.
I love that because my dad said that one time. I'm in the promotional marketing business. I have a promotion. He said, we'll get some shirts. And he was still working at the time at a construction company. He said, I want 8 gray shirts. I'm like, Dad, why do you want 8 gray shirts? Well, people don't know if I change clothes or not.
Exactly.
And so just having that fun. But, you're talking about that pausing, and, I'm going to mess with you a little bit ever since you were a professional basketball player and probably saw great things through the world because of that. When you get that ball, the moment you grab it, and even though it's a fast break, there's a brief pause to say, okay, what's ahead of me? And I think, how do you do that when you're faced with problems, though? Because sometimes people don't understand, how do you take a conscientious pause?
Yeah. You plan for, you try to plan for the pause, because even keeping with the basketball analogy, there's what you practice. That's what happens when you practice. And then there's what happens when you play, right? So I could practice this move all day long, but if the defense throws me something different, then I got to be ready to what we call in sports, to counter. You got to have what you plan to do, which is your move, which might include pivoting, but you also need your counter in case the defense shuts that down. So I see COVID-19 as a sneaky defense, right? I see it as you don't think I was going to be ready for that. And maybe you weren't ready for that. You try to prepare as best as you can, But then once it happens, you have to be able to just kind of look and go, okay, I see what you did there. All right. I thought I was going this way and you put a barricade there. So let me take a step back and really take a look at this picture. Let me take a step back and really take a look at ways that I can still get to my destination. Maybe not on the timing, we've all driven and said, okay, it takes 20 hours to get from here to, Mobile, Alabama, whatever it is, wherever you're going. And then there's what happens along the journey. And so that's kind of how I see this pandemic. It's like, this is what happened along the journey. How are you going to adjust to that? Are you going to stop on the side of the road? Which I always love doing when I drive, is stopping and just taking in the countryside and eating and snacking and that kind of stuff.
Eat where the locals eat. I want to eat where the locals eat. I don't want their fast food stuff. Give me right. Give me where Jerry and them go for lunch.
That's right. Exactly. And just kind of smelling the roses and understanding that, ultimately you will get there. Eventually you'll get there.
Yes. I mean, and that's the key thing. I think we, realize that there's no shot clock on this pandemic. Even into that analogy. And so you can reset the offense as many times as you need to, but the ultimate goal is to come out alive, first of all, and challenge people to, if you haven't lost someone close to you, then you don't take it that serious. So please do that. The other side of it is then once you've paused, then I truly believe you know what to pray for. And one of our other, I don't know if you know Delano Johnson, he's one of our trainers, and he laid out a formula. It was real nice. He and I had a call, and he said 20% is knowing what to proclaiming, 10% is asking, and 70% of prayer is listening. That was his formula. And too many times we rush through that process. Dear Heavenly Father, thank us for that, amen, and we get up and run. So we don't listen for him to give us our pivot points. Talk about finding time, even before the pandemic, because it's probably easier now to find time to be still, and the importance of finding time to be still.
Yeah. For me, I think it starts with the nature of your relationship with your, with your higher being, your God, whatever, because I have a diverse family of faith, just even in my immediate family and some of my extended family. So for me, it depends on the nature of that relationship. And if you've cultivated a relationship that is kind of typified as a vending machine relationship with God, then this is probably a very stressful time for you, because let me tell you, if you haven't heard about the vending machine analogy, it's like you put a prayer in and you expect God to spit your chips out. You know how you go up to a vending machine and then you put your $2.25 in, and then if that chip that you wanted doesn't come out, if my little Debbie's don't come out, then I'm hitting the machine wondering what's going on, God. I mean, I put my $2.25 in. Why are my chips and my little Debbie's and my nacho? Why is this stuff not coming out? But that's the kind of relationship, Howard, that a lot of people have with God. They believe, okay, I got on my knees, I prayed, I went to mass, I did whatever, and I expect something from this vending machine. I expect you to, I put this in, my fervent prayer, and then you didn't spit out what I asked for. And so I had to change the way in my church, the way I grew up, kind of believing that that's kind of what God was. It was a vending machine. And then when I started to really customize my relationship with God and in my faith, I realized that it's about congruency. In my life, it's about congruency. If I truly believe that I've been put here for a God-driven purpose, then it's about, is what's happening in my life, is this congruent with that? Or the decisions that I'm making congruent with a God who has my best interests at heart? And so now my relationship is not so much about me praying for things, but praying so that things are congruent. And that's a different nuance than saying, well, I'm asking God for this, or I'm whatever. It's like, this is who I am. This is who I accept, that great gifts have been given, and this is how I'm supposed to live my life. And so when things happen, when I make decisions, I go, okay, is this congruent with the highest purpose that God has me here for? Is the decision that I'm making right now in relationships, personal relationships, in decisions with businesses, with people that I'm going to be in business with, do we think that this is a higher decision that's going to be on a higher plane and on higher ground? And so when you take the time to analyze the kind of relationship that you have with your God, then you will know the things that Mr. Johnson talked about, which is the pausing and the asking and then the listening. But you got to really start with how you have set up your relationship in your faith. And if it's a push button, you expect something back, then there are going to be some stressful moments in your life. But if you realize that everything that's happening in your life is as it should be based on the congruency of why you've been put here, then it relieves a little bit of that stress.
No, I love that vending machine analogy because it takes me back to what my dad used to say about relationships, period, and then relationship with God. He said, you can't ask a lady to marry you on the first date, otherwise you're gonna scare her away. And he said, because you got to develop a relationship. And that is something that we don't do a lot. And I love what you said. It made me think about Solomon. You know,
right.
It's, even though you ask, it's what you're asking for. You're asking for understanding. You're asking for wisdom. You're asking for guidance. You're not asking for that specific, I want a car. I want this. And that comes by having that congruency and understanding that, you know, what is thine will for my purpose, to make sure it's in alignment. Because I say, when it's out of alignment, it's a rough ride.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that, even when you think about this, because people will hear, okay, so if you're saying everything is as it should be, I'm in this rough patch right now. Is that because God wants me in this rough patch? And my thing is always not necessarily, because there's free will. Like, you can choose to struggle. You can choose poverty. You can choose drama. Is that what God wants for me? Nah, I don't think so. I don't believe so. But I made the choice to enter into a stressful situation. I made the choice to not educate myself and become financially literate, which led to drama. That wasn't God ordained. That was my own doing. And so I think people need to really sometimes break down that aspect of prayer and asking God for greater understanding for what it is that you should be doing and how you should be living your life. And then the follow-up part of that is making the decision so that those things come to be. Now, life is going to happen. We know that along the journey, there's going to be some rain. We can't do anything about the rain. It's going to snow sometimes. You're going to have a flat tire sometimes. But then think about all the other choices, Howard, that we have to create lives that are absolutely amazing. And we go down, we're driving on this road and they're like, oh, that looks interesting. I think I'll take that drama. And then you go and you add that to your life. So I think prayer is a big part of it, but conscious praying for alignment and congruency is certainly a big part of what I do.
And that takes us to that whole center point. I call it that moment where you choose to pivot, that you choose to take that right turn instead of continuing straight, or you choose to sit on the side and not enroll in that new course that you know you need, or that certain skill set, or engage with that joint venture that's going to get you there quicker. And so, I call that pivot point, because pivoting is really a point. It's just one place. And I'll take you back to basketball, because if you pick up the pivot foot, then you turn the ball over. So you have to keep that pivot foot down. But talk about, how do you, like in this time frame, I know I've heard a lot of things that I believe God shared with me, and ideas and things. And how do you, one, hear those things, capture them, and then begin to plan and prioritize them?
You know what the key is when you're playing basketball and the defense cuts you off and you have to pivot. The other P is that you can't.
I didn't play basketball, so I played, but I had a negative vertical, so so that tells you what I did.
Yeah, so the P that comes up when you're asked about my pivot point is you can't panic. If you panic in that moment, you travel. In basketball, you end up traveling. You pivot. The defense is there, and you can see it all over a player's face. They panic, and then the next thing you know, the whistle is coming, and the official is saying, "You travel." Exactly. So I think if you prepared for, there's a lot of P's in this conversation. If you prepared for the pandemic, then you won't panic.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not impacted. It doesn't mean that this didn't throw us all off, because it did. COVID-19, nobody ever saw this coming. Nobody necessarily thought this specific flavor of a pandemic was going to happen necessarily, and yet it threw us off, right? So I'm not saying this didn't throw anybody off, but I'm saying if you prepared for the pivot, you were less likely to panic. Did you prepare financially, meaning that you have 6 to 18 months saved up? Did you have 30 days saved up so that you wouldn't have to, tap into different desperate measures to just eat at this point? Did you prepare for the pivot? That is so critical. Did you know, like for me, I didn't prepare because I was out of town for clothes for 7 weeks. I didn't prepare for that. I've already mentioned that. But were
you out of the country?
No, it's just right now. I was just in a different place. I was traveling for spring break.
Okay.
So I wasn't prepared for 7 weeks. I wasn't prepared for that, but you adjust. And so when you get to that pivot point and you're just like, okay, this thing happened. Now, immediately after you've kind of taken that pause and said, okay, let me assess the situation. Let me assess my living, all these kinds of things. Now it's time to really take a look at what this pivot, the positive, the upside of this pivot, right, what it might be, and start to kind of make a game plan for that.
So talk about, one of the things that I'm working with my clients on and challenging them is to look at this from an asset standpoint, because too many people have started thinking this woe is die, it's all over. And I'll briefly share my story, being, having a retail store, promotional store. And so one of my buddies called me, he said, Howard, you're going to be shut down, huh? I said, yeah. I said, but we'll probably sell some PPE stuff when the time is right. But really, I started looking at my asset. I was like, hold up, you've been working remotely since 1991, since you got out of college. And so that's a skill set. Yep. Most people talking about working remotely now like it's some new thing, but you've been doing it for your whole life, and you've been in outside sales. And so that's where I started putting together. That's how the Pivot Conference came about, was, hey, let's do this to help people that are working remotely, but more so looking online. And so talk about how to help people frame those assets that they have to be in alignment with those things that they should be pivoting around.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with folks who, weren't prepared to not go to work, right? Because their entire life has been about going to a building and working, in many cases for other people. And so one of the exercises that I have taken folks through is kind of having them assess what they've done in their lives, right? What they've learned in their lives and what they've experienced in their lives. So if I just did that off the cuff right now, for me, what I've done, there's a list of basketball, gone to college, travel the world. Like I could just rip that off, real quickly. So I have people go through that and say, what have you done? What have you learned? So you can share, your knowledge, your gifts, and those kinds of things. And what have you experienced? And from my standpoint, what have you experienced? I've experienced the death of a parent, right? Can I help somebody who has, that's a new experience for them? I've experienced a startup, I've helped people start businesses. So really looking at those 3 areas, I guarantee you most people watching us right now can come up with 15 ways to monetize what they've learned, what they've done, or what they've experienced. But they've never thought of themselves in that way. They've never thought about selling what they know. They've never thought about sharing their knowledge and actually there being an exchange in commerce so that people would actually pay them for what they know, what they've done or what they've learned. So making that quick little checklist so that you can actually see on paper the gifts that you have to offer the world is truly changing people's lives. It's the knowledge economy, it's the expert economy, but it's real. It's real. Right. Is what I've done for most of my life. And so when this thing hit, I was like, oh, let me tap into some other stuff that I can teach people and help people right now. And more importantly, helping them to understand that everything you're seeing out there with people selling their knowledge, you can do if you'll just tap into one of those 3 areas.
No, definitely. That is so true. And because if you have experience, that means you have knowledge in something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of
absolutely, you know something about something.
right. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have kept you where they are, even if you were on a job
Yeah.
somewhere. And sometimes it's just hard to get people to understand that. You know, I was having that conversation with a gentleman that is in the ad agency business, and he'll be with us, and we were sharing that, and I said, let's break that down. I mean, what is it that you can help people in this space with?
Mm-hmm.
And then now you break it down into a system or really a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know how many steps it'll be, but there's a systematic way of doing this. And so when you talk about that, that moves right into the planning part, because a lot of times people get the idea and then they launch. You know, it's they just jump out and pursue, and they forget about planning and creating the playbook.
Planning is huge. You know, putting the blueprint together, you know, starts with literally looking at what it would take to go from step A to step Z, and that space in between is the plan. So, you know, and that's a fun part. It's a fun part for some people. It's a stressful part for others. When you're figuring out, okay, so I figured it out. I know what I'm going to sell. I'm a prodigy. I can play the piano with just listening. Then how do I take that and actually introduce that into the marketplace? Well, the first thing you have to do is to figure out if anybody wants to learn how to play piano. Show me some evidence that people want to learn how to play piano, right? You can see that. You got a piano in every church. You got a piano in every music awards. Okay, good. I've validated the fact that people play piano and that they want to learn how to play piano. Okay, after you validated the idea, then what you need is proof that you can actually teach people how to do whatever it is you're going to teach them. So just, you know, put on your Facebook page, hey, anybody ever thought they want to learn piano? Because actually, Howard, that was one of the things I said I was going to learn during the pandemic. I was going to learn how to play an instrument, right? Pandemic's not over, so there's don't judge me. It's still going to be time for me to learn how to play saxophone.
Which instrument? Because we're going to hold you to that.
I'm thinking maybe the guitar.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe the guitar. But once you figure out kind of what you want to teach, then just get a couple of people to test, you know, give your skill that you're going to teach folks, give them the opportunity to test drive that, right? So, hey, folks, I'm starting a new teach piano lessons thing. So give me 3 people who want to learn how to play the piano. I'll teach you.
You got to get some test specimens. We won't call them test dummies, but test specimens.
yeah,
So
exactly. So get some folks who want to test drive. Then you get that proof that you can actually do it. They got the results. You put those people on display, and then you honestly just show off your testimonials. And honestly, is a 1, 2, 3 step to get business. Validate the idea, get some folks to test drive it so you can get some success stories, and then show off your success stories, and more people who want to learn that skill will actually show up to let you teach them. That's a simplified version, but that's pretty much what an infomercial is.
No, it very much is. And, you know, I validate that because for us, that's what the Pivot Conference is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're showing, Greg and I were sitting there saying, okay, we want to help people do conferences. I said, Greg, we need to have a proof that we can do it. So let's do our own conference. And one, we're going to learn a whole lot, which we have. I mean, I got a whole playbook full of stuff that we've gone through. And then, you know, just in the online space myself. And I said, okay, I got to sharpen the skills. So I started going to organizations and said, hey, are you still doing your mentoring program? Are you still doing this? I'll help you. Like tonight, I got a Unwind Wednesday on Thursday because we couldn't schedule it for yesterday with a group of realtors.
That's great.
I'm hosting it for a mortgage company. And so it's just ways in which you can validate that, and things going to go great. So of course I'm going to say, I need a couple video testimonies on that Unwind Wednesday on Thursday. And so, you know, but what Fran said, if you're listening to this, take those 3 steps. You know, what is it that you want to teach? You want to validate the idea by getting someone, and then prove that you can teach it. Get those test specimens, not test dummies. You want people that are going to give you feedback on it and give you testimonies, and then show your greatness. And then let them tell them. And see, the testimonies are important because if you talk about it, you're bragging. When others talk about it, it's a testimony.
Yep.
That is why you have to get others to share. So the last thing, talk about being persistent, as we talk about it, because you created this plan. And I like to say you create a plan, but then you put it into a playbook, because just like you did in a game, your coach will refer back to this book saying, okay, was that part of our game plan going into that game, and it didn't stay in the locker room. And so talk about taking that playbook to help you pursue and persist as you move through this new venture.
You probably heard the adage, it's the start that stops most people, right? It's the start.
I wrote that down. I mean, I've heard it, but I love hearing it again because I need reminders all the time.
It's so true. It really is. Like, there are people right now who are on fire just watching this and watching your interviews, and who are going to come to the Pivot Conference, and they're going to be excited, but they won't start. They're not going to do it. And then the people who do start, because there's probably only going to be about 10% of the people who hear this who start, who actually, okay, I heard you guys, I'm doing it. Of that 10%, only 1% is going to persist.
Wow.
That's why the road to success is not that crowded. Like, people think it's crowded. It's really not that crowded, because only 1% of the people who heard it are going to keep going. It's hard to keep going because there's rain and there's snow and there's sleet and there's other travelers on the road, and all of that stuff distracts people, and all of that stuff discourages people. Not understanding that that's a part of it. Like, if you would just embrace the fact that the rain, the sleet, the snow, the hail, the fires, if you would just embrace that all of that is a part of your success journey, you wouldn't pull over to the side of the road and stay over there forever. You wouldn't. You want to stay engaged. So persisting is just really about putting your head down and just going forward. I can always count on, whenever I see people who, people always say, well, I can't do that because so-and-so is doing that. I always just kind of laugh, because one of the things I learned in sports was it really is about the people who endure. It really is about, you can be running a race with 12 people across, a 100-yard dash, but pretty soon you'll see somebody get in front of that pack. Mm-hmm. You just will. That's the way life is. So if you can just stick with it, learn, do things the right way, stick with it, build the right relationships, really build that relationship capital, and stick with whatever it is, you'll ultimately get there. You'll be in the top 10%, but too many people give up. They drop out. They give out because it is hard. The other adage, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, is true. Like, I used to hate hearing that, but it's true. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. So just know that the hard is okay. Enjoy it. Whatever is in your path, is not something that's insurmountable, and just keep going, because if you keep going, you will get there. That's literally been my mantra for everything that I do, right? I've got a beverage company. I've got a facility. This ain't easy. None of this stuff is easy, but all I have to remind myself of every day is just, I literally do. I look in the mirror and I go, okay, just keep going. I literally say those, just keep going.
If you would talk about that a little bit, because we didn't talk a lot about your background other than basketball. Mm-hmm. So I don't want people to think, here's this super jock that is not intelligent, diverse, and creative, and willing to stick to it and stick through it. Not stick to it, but just stick through it.
Stick through it, yes.
And so,
absolutely.
Just share a little bit about how you've being open to new ideas have led you to different ventures, from ESPN to Sportsplex, working on, as much as you can share about that.
Yeah, and it is about being open to what's out there. I think sometimes fear really holds people back. Not that I don't have fear. I do, videos on my Facebook timeline all the time about it. It's not that successful people don't have fears and doubts and moments where they're wondering if things are going to happen. But I push.
You think about something real quick in the P's. Yeah. Allow fear to cause you to pause, but not paralyze you.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's, it causes you to evaluate a little different.
I love it.
Don't let it paralyze
you. Feel it. I always say in a recent video that I did, I said, okay, tell me more. Like, okay, so I'm feeling some doubt. I'm feeling some fear. Tell me a little bit more about what that's about. It's analyzing it. It's taking a look at it. It's giving me the opportunity to examine what's happening along my journey. But yeah, it really is about just being open. So I am one of the most, when it comes to business, I will listen to any business idea. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, because I believe I can kind of feel whether something is is a big
That's one of my
opportunity.
favorite words in the sales process. I teach that is when someone says something, don't respond or react.
Mm-hmm.
Just say
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
Just say interesting.
Right.
Turn your head, and most people start to keep talking. They just keep
Yes.
sharing.
Exactly. Just be
Wow.
open to it. Yeah. Like, wow. Like, and that creates the dialogue and the engagement. But for me, all my life has been about being open to the possibility. And so, I mean, pointing case today, before you and I hopped on, I was in a conversation talking about $500 million of funding for a project. Now, if you think about that, what? Like, but I was totally open to that.
9 zeros or 8 zeros and a 5. Okay, I gotcha. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I'm gonna set it up here.
Right. But you have to be open.
$500 million.
Things don't show up if you're not open to them. And so every opportunity that's come into my life that I've been able to attract has been because I am open to it. And that's fact. That's actual factual.
You said something, Fran, and you know, I'm the kind of, I love to listen and hear. You said attract.
Yep.
See, she didn't say she chased him. She became a person that the ideas attracted or attracted to. So someone saw it and said, okay, this is the right piece. This is a piece that we were missing as part of this $500 million deal. Okay. Okay. What a B now. I didn't say a million, $500 million deal. And you want to become that person, and you have to persist in order to do that. But keep sharing. I mean, that was something I had to share with people.
Yeah, I've been open to it. And the reality is I said this last week and something that I posted on my social media, you can always tell what your vibration and your frequency is by what you are attracting at that point in your life. So for instance, if nothing is happening, opportunities, love opportunities, great, healthy love opportunities and great business opportunities are not coming to you, there's something about your frequency, your field, your electro field. There's something going on there because there's too much opportunity out there for you not to be attracting some of this stuff. So when I'm looking at my life and nothing is happening, I go, wow, what kind of place am I in? What kind of energy am I exuding? What's about my energy field and my frequency such that, given that I've talked earlier about my congruency, about my calling, given that these things are not showing up. And then you can start to peel back some of the layers that may be spiritual, psychological, some darkness, some clouds that are not allowing these things to come to you. And it's okay, because it gives you the opportunity to figure out where you are. And then when I figured that out, I'm not like instantly. When I figure that out, I go, oh, okay, that's what I need to clear. I clear that up. Phone rings, not even kidding. Email comes. People, hey, I want to introduce you to instantly. And that's why I tell people about the law of attraction. Said another way, you have to know that you are putting out feelers for what you want to be in your life. So if you ever want to know what kind of frequency and feelers you're putting out, look at the people who are coming into your life. Looking at the things that are coming to your life, it will tell you everything about your thoughts, everything about what you're thinking about all day will show up in your life. So if you want to fix that, fix your thoughts, fix your heart, fix your frequency, and you will start to attract a whole different level of things. $500 million, I'm not thinking I'm having that conversation today, but because my frequency is set to attract at a certain level. Come on now. Those things show up. Those things show up in your life. So I just sit in gratitude for, being open to that, being open to, okay, if I say these are the things that I want in my life and this is my legacy, then there is nothing too great, nothing too big for God, all of that is possible for me.
As we get ready to close out and want to be respectful of your time, you touched on a word that I love, and I challenge people, what will be your legacy? What is it that you will not have to apologize for to the future generation.
Yeah.
Because you chose not to do it. And so if you would share a little bit about that, how will Fran be remembered?
Yeah. My reason for being here is to completely elevate Black folks and women and athletes economically and spiritually. Because I realize that when you are congruent with who you are, when you are aligned with who the Creator has made you to become, there's no reason for you to ever lack anything that's of substance and goodness. And so for me, what that looks like I've written books about meaning Black folks, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, right? Because I know that when you can take care of yourself, so many things go away when you can take care of yourself economically. Poverty goes away, crime goes down, bad relationships go down. When you know that you can take care of yourself economically, financially, when you are in that space, it changes lives and it changes generations of lives. So when I leave here, I want it to be very clear that I've built a brand where people have gotten better, where we have come up in so many ways. We've come up spiritually, we've come up economically, we've come up financially, and those will be by the things that I establish here. But the underlying impact of what I leave here will be that we are better people, we're stronger people, we're more financially fit folks.
As we close out, what is your one word for the season?
My one word for the season?
Yeah, your one word, and it's, what one word is speaking to you more than anything else throughout this season in your life? And, I'm not talking about necessarily pandemic, but.
Yeah, no, the word that came up was infinity. And that's it. It's unlimited impact, infinite possibilities, infinite financial wherewithal, infinite, because that's the level on which I want to move in the world. Is whatever I do, the impact does not stop with our community. The impact does not stop with this interview. It continues. It goes. Because
so
that's what
you have heard it from Fran Infinity Harris. It's just that whole cycle just keeps going and going and going. Or keep growing and growing and growing, I like to say, instead of going. And so, Fran, how do people connect with you? We're definitely going to see you at the Pivot Conference, and Fran she'll be posting her direct link to the conference, and, she'll have some goodies for you. And if you're listening to this feed live, please share a couple of your pivot ideas that came from this. And we're going to pick 4, and I'm going to give 4 tickets away to the Pivot Conference, Fran. So you'll pick them and just let me know who they are, and I'll send them the link for that. But how do people connect with you?
FranHarris.com is always, the home base, FranHarris.com. I've already put the link to the Pivot Conference in the live kind of chat area. And I want to invite you and encourage you and admonish you to show up, because I hear a lot of times people saying, man, I can't afford this, or, now we can't go anywhere. Everybody's got a lot of excuses. This is coming directly to your mobile, your tablet, or your laptop or computer. You need to show up for this. If you are in the season of abundance and prosperity, of mind, of spirit, of body, of finances, you need to show up when these kinds of opportunities show up at your doorstep. And so the link is already on my Facebook page. Okay. And if you're seeing this in replay, it's already there. You can click that link and get your ticket and invest in yourself and your future. This pandemic, winter is always coming. This is nothing that we can't handle, but you have to equip yourself. You have to equip yourself for tomorrow, and coming to Pivot Conference. The Pivot Conference is a great way to do that. So I hope to see y'all there.
And that's the whole reason. I mean, Fran, you summed it up perfectly. That's why, and that's why I'm so glad you're a part of this, and you're helping round out the table. You're going to be talking about the psychology of selling, how to help things stick. Because yesterday we were on a call and somebody was asking about selling in this season. Even my wife actually said something to me about it. No, she's gone, so she may not listen to this exact part. But she said, why are we selling doing this? And someone challenged me yesterday, and I was selling. I've been selling because I have to. But he said, do we tell singers to stop singing? Do we tell poets to stop writing?
Ooh.
You know, and
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, you know, so why should marketers stop marketing?
Yeah.
Why should salesmen stop selling?
Yeah.
You know, and so that is, you know, something you have to think about for your own self. But it convicted me. It convicted me of, okay, hey, you've paused, you've heard what God said you should do, and you need to be moving forward now. And so, like you said, it's that person that persists through and push towards infinity.
Yeah.
Is the one that's going to be out there by themselves or with a select few. Because there's
Yep.
going to be a few other people that choose to run the whole race with you. And
Yep.
either you're going to be waiting on them or they're going to be waiting on you, but all of
That's
you are
right.
going to finish. So Fran, if you would just take us out, any last words as we close out here, and any thing that you would like to have people to do as they get ready for the Pivot Conference? Because I challenge them to connect with you before the Pivot Conference, because if they come in and connect with you now, what they receive from you at the Pivot Conference, they're going to be at a higher ground. So they're going to get even more from the training and the teachings that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say all progress. This is not a Fran Harris original, but I love it. All progress starts outside your comfort zone. And so if it's stretching you right now to think about signing up for a conference, a virtual conference, and actually attending, that's a good sign. Discomfort in that way is a very good sign. But I would tell you to prepare for a transformation and be prepared to participate in your transformation. Just showing up for the Pivot Conference is not going to change your life. You have to participate in that transformation. And I find that too often, too many people want to say, oh, I didn't really like that, or, you know, he was boring, or that didn't really turn me on. But you have to participate in that. You've got to throw your entire, you know, I think what's the song says, put your back into it. You got to put your back into it.
Well, what you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. You got to participate in your own transformation. So come and expect a miracle. Expect a miracle. I am never disappointed when I expect high, you know, when I have high expectations. You know, that's just how it works. So expect a miracle, expect a transformation, participate in it, and watch what happens in your life.
I love that phrase, expect a miracle. And I challenge you to go ahead and register at the Pivot Conference and, you know, connect with Fran, connect with the other speakers, because every voice is not, you know, my voice is not for everyone, but my voice is for some. And I know that. And my conviction, my purpose is continue to share my voice. And the same way with Fran. And so that's why we have such a diverse group of dynamic speakers and presenters and trainers. And I've challenged every one of them is to leave people with 2-3 things that they can implement that day. Because, hey, Saturday night, you can start implementing. Hey, this is a wide world at your fingertips, so you can get to work immediately. And so that's what I'm going to challenge you guys to do. So go ahead over to thepivotconference.com, use the link that Fran has posted /Fran, and it will take you right there, and you get all the goodies. We have some surprise secrets. You know, I'm from Louisiana. Well, I'm not from Louisiana. I live in Louisiana, and we call it lanyap down here, a little something extra. So I've been fighting with the team because I want to give too much, and they're like, oh, no, we got to hold something back. So we're going to come in that middle somewhere, and there's going to be some nice, good stuff.
Good stuff. Thank you, Howard.
Hey, Fran, thanks a lot, and continue to serve, and look forward to seeing you at the Pivot Conference.
We'll do it. Have a good weekend.
I will.
Thanks. Bye.